Alright, so here's the IBM ThinkPad R51 computer that I showed in a previous video that I made about 3 months ago. Basically, I made a video where I was taking apart the computer because the fan was thrown out of alignment and it would no longer spin. And therefore, when you started the computer, it would say fan error and promptly shut off. So, I got that all fixed. I've got the fan back in alignment, and that was the end of it, which is a good thing because usually when that happens it means that the fan's broken or that the system board is failing, and that would have meant finding a replacement board or a replacement fan and a lot more repairs. But thankfully it was just that simple problem, and then this thing was back up and running. So it was my sister's computer, but she bought a MacBook Air this past summer, and she got all of her data transferred to another hard drive or into the MacBook, I don't know. So she didn't need this computer anymore. She said I could have it, do whatever I wanted with it, and that's when I discovered it stopped working, which is kind of funny how it stopped working as soon as she gave it to me. But anyway, so I decided to make some hardware and software upgrades to this thing to make it a bit more usable nowadays, because this is an 11-year-old laptop, and it's really hard to try and make it usable now. But I've managed. First and foremost, I upgraded the RAM in this thing. It originally, I think it either had 1 or 1.5 gigs of RAM originally. Actually, it had 1.5 gigs because there's the second RAM stick over there. That's the original 512 meg stick. So it's up to 2 gigs, which is the most that the board in here takes. That helps performance a little bit, especially with multitasking. The second main hardware upgrade was upgrading the wireless, because this does have built-in wireless, but it's 802.11g, so it's limited to 54 megabits per second, which is alright. Like, it still runs pretty decently, but I'm trying to get the most out of this, and the internet is a lot more important now than it was 10 years ago, and especially because I bring this computer to school. It's my main school computer, and a lot of the stuff we do at school is done on the Google system of things, the Google Drive, the Google Classroom, so I just thought it'd be beneficial to have faster internet. So I got this Netgear, what is it? Just pull it out here. It's a, oops, computer isn't happy. It's a WN511B wireless card that goes in here, and it supports 802.11n, which is a lot faster than G is. I think it's capable of like up to, I don't know, 500 megabits per second. I don't know. I'm getting between 150 and 200 megabits per second out of it. It just depends on how good the signal is. But so it may not be the most that this thing's capable of, but it's definitely more than what the original wireless card could do. So I disabled the internal wireless in Windows, and it's getting the internet through this. This thing, it's really funny. I got this off Amazon. When it was new, it cost $90. But since there's really no demand for PCI wireless cards anymore, and this thing's just like so old, I got it brand new for only $7 plus shipping. Actually, I think shipping was free. I don't know. I don't remember. So that's really nice to have. I still have the box and the driver CDs and everything. Didn't have to hunt down any drivers, just put in the driver CD and did all that. Netgear does include software to connect to the networks, but I find it to be a lot more complicated than just installing the drivers and letting Windows do the rest. So that's what I did. I also got new batteries for this because I do have the original IBM battery here, and it does hold a charge, but it only lasts about 35 minutes. And for someone who brings their laptop to school every day to do notes and do work, that's not really practical to have to plug it in every other period. Because what I would bring this to school, and what I would literally do is use it first period, plug it into charge second period, third period, because I didn't need it those periods. Fourth period, I'd use it again. I would plug it in and charge it during fifth, use it again during sixth, plug it in and charge seventh and eighth period, and then use it again ninth period. And then after school, I would have track, so I would usually have it charging then. So, this thing's on its way out. Like, it still holds a charge, but it's inevitable that it's eventually going to get to the point that it just dies as soon as you unplug the power. And I don't think it's really healthy to send the battery through 5 whole cycles in a day. So I ordered a generic high-capacity battery off of Amazon for $16. These things are very hit or miss with any computer. If you get a laptop battery that's only $15, $16, then yeah, its performance is definitely going to be questionable, and some people even say these things are dangerous. But so far it hasn't blown up on me, and it stays relatively cool during use, which is probably a good thing. If this thing was getting warm during use, I would get concerned, but it stays very cool during use, and IBM did a good job designing this thing, because all the CPU is here, and all the ventilation goes out through the side. So unless there's a problem with the heating in this thing, the battery stays really cool. So I picked this particular battery. I mean, there's a bunch of generic brands out there. I picked this one because it had generally the highest reviews and the most reviews, because that's something you have to be careful about when you're buying off of Amazon. You have to look at the number of reviews as well as how good the reviews are. Because if you see something on Amazon and it has a 5-star rating, but there's only 2 reviews, then that's not going to be very accurate as to how good quality the product actually is. But if there's 100 or 1,000 reviews and it's like 4 or 4.5 stars, then that's going to be a more accurate representation of how good this thing actually is. So I went with this one, and it's been a week, and so far it hasn't blown up or anything, and it seems to do a decent job. It holds about, I'd say, a little more than 4 hours charge, so I don't know how that compares to an original IBM battery, but compared to 35 minutes, I'd say that's pretty good. So I got this replacement battery. It seems to be working fine for now. We'll see how it works a year or 2 down the road. I've looked at some of the reviews on Amazon, and some people say these things came dead on arrival, or they died very quickly, and then there's other people saying, like, it's been 2 or 3 years since I bought the battery and it still works fine. So we'll have to see. And then I also got another battery that goes into the UltraBay. Pull it out here, because the great thing about the UltraBay is that everything's hot-swappable. This one holds about an hour and a half of charge. So, I mean, it's a lot thinner, so that's probably why, but again, I don't know how that compares to an original IBM UltraBay battery, but that's not bad. So, in total, with the UltraBay and the regular battery installed, I get about 5.5 hours out of use out of this thing, and that's with wireless turned on. That's browsing the web, because when I first got these batteries, you're supposed to calibrate them by letting them completely charge and then discharging them, and I literally sat here for several hours and did stuff online. I went on YouTube, I went on Amazon, I typed stuff up, I had a Word document going. So this thing gets about 5.5 hours when you're using the internet and when you're multitasking. So it'd be interesting to see if I turned the wireless off and just did basic stuff like a Word document or solitaire, see if I can get 6 or 7 hours out of this thing. So that's not too bad. It's better than my MacBook, which the battery in here is starting to go too. It tells me it needs to service the battery. I get about 2 hours out of this. And then, of course, 5-6 hours is definitely better than 35 minutes. So that's about it for the hardware upgrades. The last thing I need to do is upgrade the hard drive, because it's still the original 80GB drive that's been in here for 11 years. I don't know how much longer it's going to last. It still works. Let's open this up. The one other thing with this computer is the little plastic piece here that pushes down on this and tells the computer to go into sleep mode when you close the lid. That broke off. I don't know how it did. It was on there, and then one day I just opened this up, and the little plastic piece was like running around. So I don't know how I'm going to fix that. I don't know if I'll just put a little piece of glue on there, or like glue something in place so that when I shut it, it does that. But for now, whenever I'm going to close the lid, I just do function F4. That tells the computer to go into sleep mode, and then I just close it. And then when I open it back up, I function F4 again. So it's just a little inconvenient, but it's not bad. But anyway, so the hard drive does still work. But it's very sluggish when you're first starting on the computer. And it's not just the computer. Like when this MacBook had a hard drive, it would take forever to boot up, and then once everything was done loading, if you tried to open an application, it would take forever to load, and you could see the hard drive clicking away. You can see the indicator light. It would just be like solid green, and you can hear it clicking away. So that may not be exclusive to this hard drive. I don't know if that has to do with the age of the hard drive, or maybe it's the install of Windows. Maybe the drives become fragmented. I defragmented the hard drive once or twice, so I don't know. I'm thinking of replacing it with an SSD, but that's going to be kind of hard because this thing uses IDE, and it's a lot harder to find an SSD that is IDE interface as it is to find a SATA hard drive. Like SSD. You can find SATA SSDs almost anywhere, but it's really hard to find one that's the IDE interface, and they're usually more expensive too. You can get little adapters online that convert the SATA interface to IDE. I've heard that boggles down the speed even more, and also it may or may not fit in here. So those are my two concerns with that. So that's why I've been holding off on getting an SSD for this thing, but I may end up getting it anyway just because this thing is really starting to get slow on the hard drive. Anyway, so now we get to the software part of things. It's running Windows XP Home Edition. When I first got it from my sister, it was still running Service Pack 2. She never upgraded it to Service Pack 3. So I installed Service Pack 3, and then I also installed the unofficial Service Pack 4, which you can see there by the version 2014. It's still registered to my sister. I haven't deleted the install. I should probably do that, but whatever. You can see 2 gigs of RAM, Pentium M processor, 1.7 GHz. I believe the ThinkPad R51, the highest processor it's capable is a 2 GHz or 2.1 GHz, something like that. And these processors are pretty much user serviceable. You can upgrade them. They're not soldered onto the board or anything. So I could take this apart and put in a faster processor, but really I'm not sure if the slight increase in speed is worth the effort. And I'm pretty satisfied with where it is now. So it's something to consider, but for now it's not really on my priority list. But anyway, so it has the unofficial Service Pack 4, which basically takes all of the updates released from when Service Pack 3 was released to the end of Windows XP support, and then it also modifies the registry of Windows to make Microsoft think it is a embedded POS machine. And if you don't know what that is, Windows Embedded POS Ready 2009 is basically Windows XP, except it was designed for use with ATMs and all of that, and security updates for it continue until 2019. So this basically modifies the registry so that you can get those updates. Of course, Microsoft advises against doing that. It suggests you upgrade to a newer version of Windows or whatever. But so far I've had the Service Pack on here, and I have that. I'm getting the updates. I've been getting them for a while, and so far this thing hasn't blown up in my face. So I think I'm good. Many might ask why I don't just install Windows 7 on this. I tried that. I have a tool called Mini Tool Partition Wizard. It partitions the hard drive, and then it also has stuff like an SSD migration wizard, and you can even change the size of the partition and everything. It's really nice. And I tried installing Windows 7 on here on a separate partition, and it did install, and it kind of worked, but it's really hard to get drivers for Windows 7 for this particular computer. I could only get a few of them. The rest of them I couldn't find, and if I did find any drivers, they wouldn't work properly. And in the end, Windows 7 just ran really sluggish on this thing, and I just figured it wasn't worth it. So I deleted the partition, and I just have Windows XP on here. And then other people might say, why don't you install Linux on here? Because I've heard these ThinkPads are very good with Linux, and of course Linux tends to run a lot better on older machines than Windows can. Honestly, I want to experiment with Linux, but I prefer Windows because it has all the programs I need. I'm sure there are substitutes for those programs that exist for Linux, but I'm just not interested in trying it out right now. And for the time being, all of the programs I need are still supported on Windows XP. If we go to all of my programs, I have CCleaner, that's still supported. There's that mini tool partition wizard. Google Drive is supported. I mainly use that for school. Hasbro and Roller Coaster Tycoon. Spotify, you can still get the newest version for XP. VLC Media Player is still supported. QuickTime Player, that's been on here. I don't think they support that anymore. I have Office 2007. iTunes is 1 or 2 versions out of date. I think the newest version that runs on XP is from like early or mid 2015. So it still works, it's just a version or 2 out of date. And then Firefox, the newest version still runs. Game Maker, I'm not sure, but I installed that a few years ago because I had a class where we learned how to program in Game Maker, and I really haven't used it since then. I had it because this was before I got this laptop, so I used my sister's laptop. Windows 7 Upgrade Advisor. And then I have Launch4j, which is a program that takes Java programs and makes them into Windows executable files. And for that I have the Java Development Kit, which is supported on XP. And to actually make Java programs, I have a program called Eclipse, which will open fairly quickly now, but if I had just started the computer, you would see this hard drive light on forever, and it would take about 5 minutes to start. But it's going to open up the last program I had. Eclipse is kind of like, it's a free Java development program. There's a bunch of other programs that it came with, but this is the main one I use. It just lets you type up different things, like this is a Java class. This is just a basic program I made. I'm in a class right now where we're learning how to program Java, that's why I installed this. And JCreator is what we use at school, but it's a paid program, and I'm not interested in paying money for that. So my teacher said to get Eclipse, which is the next best thing, and a lot of people in the class that have tried it, they actually find it to be better than JCreator. I don't know yet because I haven't messed around with it enough. I just made a couple programs like this one. But it is a pain to install. It took a very long time for me to get it to install correctly. And it wasn't just me that had that problem. A lot of the other people I talked to said they had a lot of troubles trying to install this. But it's up and running now. We can look at the little program I made. You can see how it's a toll calculator for Pennsylvania Turnpike. So it shows you all the exits. You type in where you're going to get on, and then you type in where you are going to get off, and it determines the approximate cost. It's semi-accurate. I took into account the 2016 toll increase, which I believe makes it 13 cents per mile, but I did not take into account that not the entire thing is ticketed. It is only ticketed from Warrendale to before Interstate 95. So not the entire thing is ticketed, so that makes the costs a little bit off in some cases. But it's mostly accurate, and then if you saw there, I even took into account if you have Easy Pass. So, sorry to get sidetracked there, I just wanted to show you that. Yes, I'm going to close. Oh yeah, and I also have Avast antivirus on here. So yeah, even though this is still running Windows XP, and it's been nearly 2 years since Microsoft ended support, all of the programs that I need are still supported for XP. And with that unofficial service pack, this thing is pretty much still usable. Now, 5 years from now, I'm not sure if some of these programs will still be supported, and suddenly it's only 3 more years until the POS Ready updates end. But for now, this computer is still very usable. The speed It may not be quite as fast as some newer machines. Some of that's just the hard drive boggling things down. But it's still very usable, especially now that I have 2 working batteries for it. I can actually get a day's use out of it rather than just 35 minutes. So I just wanted to make that video. I just wanted to make this video showing you where I am with this laptop. I do like the ThinkPad computers. I think up until maybe 2011, 2012, when Lenovo really started messing with the ThinkPads, up until then, these were very well-designed, well-built laptops. Very user-serviceable, they're very rugged, very durable. Of course, there's a couple models here and there that weren't very good, but in general, these are very good laptops. And my MacBook is still my main computer just because it's faster and newer. It can handle HD video editing and all of that. This can run YouTube, but it does stutter a bit. This one can still run YouTube perfectly. So for all of that, for video editing, you can see I have this other camcorder plugged in. It's my main computer, but for almost everything else, I use this. For general web browsing, all that. Even if I just need a second screen to show something, I'll just open up something on here and then be using this. I actually, if I log in here, I actually have a shared folder on my computer. Let's see if I can get it on here. There we go. I actually have a shared folder. It's not connected right now, but it actually allows me to share files with this computer. Let's see if I can go to... Let's see, how do I don't even remember how to get to it. Computer... There we go, shared documents. Okay, so we're going to be trying this on the fly here. Sharing. Okay. Anyway, sometimes it connects, sometimes it doesn't. I don't know why it's not connecting now, but generally I actually have a folder that lets me share files between one computer and the other. So I can drag something into the folder on here and it will show up on here, and vice versa. So that's really cool. I don't know why it's not working now. I was ashamed because I really wanted to show you guys that. I was excited about that. Yeah, so even though this computer is 11 years old, it's still perfectly usable for almost everything I need it to do, which is very impressive considering most laptops from this time period are either collecting dust or in a landfill. But that about wraps everything up. There really isn't too much else I can say. Last thing I think I can do with this thing is upgrade the hard drive to an SSD, and then we'll be on our way. I need to get a, that's the other thing I forgot. I think I forgot to mention, but I also got a little hard drive caddy that goes into the UltraBay. Here it is. Basically, you put your hard drive in there. It's a SATA connection. You put it in there, and then it goes into here, and you can have a second hard drive. And then in the box here, I still have the original DVD, CD, IBM optical drive. And it's all hot-swappable too, which is what I love about these UltraBays. And I wish every laptop had an UltraBay that you would just freely switch between a battery, a hard drive, and a disk drive. And I know in the MacBooks you can replace the optical drive with a second hard drive or an SSD, but it's really not hot-swappable and you can't change them out on the fly like you can with this. And I know ThinkPads weren't the only computers to have these. My Dell Latitude laptop has hot-swappable drives and everything. You can put a battery in, or a floppy drive, or a disk drive, or a hard drive, or whatever. Even a zip drive, I think. But, so yeah, that's the ThinkPad R51 laptop. from 2005. It was introduced in 2004, but my model is from 2005. A really great computer, and most of the ThinkPads were. So I just want to make this video kind of just updating you on where I am and how well this thing is working. The only other thing I think I forgot to mention is that the little plastic piece here that presses down on this button here to tell the computer to go into sleep mode when you shut the lid, it broke off a while ago. I don't know how it did, I just know one day I opened it and the piece was rattling around. So now whenever I close the computer, I have to manually hit function F4 and then close the machine, and then when I open it back up I have to hit function F4, because on here that's the command to put the computer into sleep mode. But yeah, so I'll do that right now. So there's the ThinkPad. We'll see how these batteries hold up over the next several months and next year or so. And hope to see you guys later. I'm interested in getting a newer ThinkPad. Of course, not a brand new one, because all the new ones they make are crap. But like a T61, I've heard that's one of the best ThinkPads ever. Very favorable reviews of that computer. And then I'm also looking into the T420 or the W520. Those were like among the last ThinkPads to have the old style keyboard and all of the old features before Lenovo really started messing with the design and making the computers crap. So, anyway, I've dragged this video out long enough. I keep getting off topic, so I might as well end it. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.